Good morning and welcome to the Morning Report. My name is Willie Lawson. And today we're stepping into a fight that has a lot of people didn't see coming, but everybody is already feeling it, okay? College sports. Now I want, because March Madness is about to end, I thought this was an appropriate time. Um, Now I want you to hear me clearly right at the start, okay? College athletics, as we knew it, I knew it, is over. That version, gone. What we have now is something extremely different. It's bigger money, it's less structure, and it's just freaking chaos. And now President Trump has issued an executive order that is trying to bring some order back into the system. Now, I know what you're thinking, because I was thinking the very same thing. This is going to get challenged. Okay. It's not going to hold up. This is political. You know, and I concur. A lot of that's true. But here's what we're going to do today. We're going to slow this thing down, take a breath, and actually look at this the right way. Not just what is in this order, but what's positive, what's actually possible, and what ought to be possible if we're serious about saving college sports in this country. All right, here's the deal. Before we even talk about the order, we need to tell the truth. Because if we don't diagnose the disease correctly, we can't cure it. You can't fix anything. College sports is not struggling because there's not enough money. That is a bald-faced lie. There's more money in college athletics right now than in any time in history. TV deals, billions. Conference realignment, billions. Coaches' salaries through the roof. Facilities that look like NFL stadiums. So money, no, money is not the issue. Order, like in most things today, is the issue. Because what we have right now is a system where players can transfer almost at will. Players are essentially bidding, schools are essentially bidding for talent. Boosters, which are always a problem, are operating like shadow payroll departments. And the NCAA, well, let's be honest, the NCAA has been losing in court so consistently that it's basically been legislated off the field. So what you have now is this: a billion-dollar industry operating without any real national rule book. And when that happens, you don't get fairness, you don't get opportunity, you get what we have now: chaos. Now, here's where I'm going to probably shock some people. Because whether you like Trump or not, this executive order identifies some very real problems and tries to do something about them. First, it calls out fake NILs. Now, let's talk about that. NIL stands for name, image, and likeness. And that was supposed to allow athletes to earn money. On its face, fair, makes sense. If your jersey is selling, if your face is on TV, if your performance is generating revenue, you should be able to benefit from that. My examples around here are this. If you're the Florida State quarterback and Florida State is rolling and they're 13-0, and Tallahassee Ford wants you to be in the series of their commercials, and they're going to pay you for it. They're going to pay you for it and let you drive a Mustang around with Tallahassee Ford on it. Got no problem with that. Not at all. If you're at the University of Florida and you're a star running back, and you guys are about to win the SEC, then first of all, I never want that to happen. But anyway, but if that's happening, then I need you to go ahead, and if you're at Gator Ford in Gainesville, Gator Ford wants you in their commercials and wants to give you a Ford F-250 to drive around town. I ain't got no problem with that either. I don't. But that's not what's happening. Boosters Booster collectives are paying players six figures not to promote a dealership, or they're paying them to promote car dealerships. And that player never sets foot on the lot. They never do a commercial. They never do anything. And that's not NIL. That's recruiting money. And everybody knows it. This isn't one of those secrets that, oh my God, this is not breaking news to anybody who's watching. So what this order does is try to draw lines between real business deals and fake ones designed to buy players. That is a legitimate problem to address, don't you think? Now, second, it tries to protect women's sports and Olympic sports. Now, this matters more than people realize because here's what's happening behind the scenes. Football makes money. In certain schools, basketball helps. Everything else is funded by those two. Women's golf, men's and women's tennis, men's golf too, lacrosse, bowling, you name it. All the track and field stuff, all of the track and field stuff. Shot put, javelin, long jump, high jump, all the running events are funded by football in a school and sometimes, depending on the school, basketball. So when you introduce revenue sharing and direct payments, where do you think the money comes from? People say it doesn't grow on trees, but it kind of does. But anyway, it comes from the same budget. So without guardrails, you are going to see cuts. Fewer scholarships, fewer teams, fewer opportunities. So maybe, Tiny State University doesn't have a water polo team anymore. It's an Olympic sport. Right? Maybe, and we've already seen this, a lot of schools don't have JV programs. They don't have their own development programs. Cuts will be made. Because women's sports and Olympic sports, the very programs that don't have massive TV contracts. So whether people want to admit it or not, this is a real risk. And the executive order is trying to get ahead of it. Third, something that's really annoying. And this is where some of you are going to push back. And I know where you're going to push back at. So just bear with me here. Right now, college sports has something close to free agency every year. Players jump schools. Coaches have to recruit their own roster. Teams cannot build continuity. Started off in basketball with schools like Duke, the whole one and done. Come in as a freshman, get seen, and off to the league you go. And the fans, the rest of us, they don't even know who's going to be on the team the next season. And this is not a healthy system. And what this order proposes is one free transfer and another one after graduation. You see how the order still understands that these are colleges and universities, and there needs to be some academic progress. Now I know not everyone's going to agree with that, but okay. And that's not locking players down, but it is saying there's got to be some structure because without it, you don't have teams. You have temporary rosters. Fourth, and this one is big. Something that this is part of why all this happens. Medical responsibility. If a player gets hurt, representing your school, you don't just wash your hands of it. This order pushes for schools to provide medical care during and after participation. And frankly, that's just basic decency. You pay the coach $8 million. You can take care of a player who tore their ACL playing for you. Because what a lot of people don't know is that a lot of times a player will get hurt and not be able to play, and suddenly their scholarship is gone. They'll say we have a limited number of scholarships. We can't keep giving you a scholarship. Maybe you can apply for a grant to stay at the university, but they don't take care of them. They don't take care of their medical bills either. A lot of times, that ain't right. Which is why NIL and making as much money as you can to take care of yourself. Schools ought to, if somebody's playing for you and they get hurt playing for you, representing the school, then you ought to be responsible for them until they are made whole. Now, let's not pretend this is all going to be clean and easy, because it isn't. This thing is going to get challenged hard. Why? Because an executive order is not law, by the way. An executive order cannot rewrite antitrust law. An executive order can't override every state NIL law overnight. It can't just hand power back to the NCAA and call it a day. So what this order does is try to use federal leverage, money, grants, contracts, and say, listen, if you want access to federal dollars, you're going to follow certain standards. Now, that's clever, but it's also where the lawsuits are going to come from. Because schools in the states are going to say, wait a minute. You're using education funding to regulate athletics? That is going to be tested, friends. And then there's this question: who sets the rules? Because the order leans on a national governing body, and let's be real, the NCAA or something like it. But the problem is the NCAA has already been weakened in the court. So now you're saying, can a private organization write rules that the federal government then uses to determine whether a university qualifies for federal funding? That's a huge legal question. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because even if parts of this order don't survive, it can still shape what happens next. And here's what I think is actually possible: some middle ground where players get paid, schools can share revenue, and real NIL continues. But fake deals get restricted, transfers get structured, and non-revenue sports are protected. Now, that's not fantasy. I believe that's where things are headed, because the current system is not sustainable. You cannot have unlimited movement, unlimited payments, and no national rules and expect any kind of stability. You just can't. Oh, and another thing that can come out of this is transparency. Ooh, that's a four-letter word. Real reporting, where schools have to show where the money is going, how many roster spots exist, who is gaining and who is losing. Because right now, a lot of this is happening in the dark. And we know what happens when money passes in the dark. People get hurt. Now, let's talk about what should happen. All right. Because this is where we stop reacting and start leading. What ought to be possible is this: an honest system, not fake amateurism, not chaos, but something real, where we admit big time college football and basketball are commercial enterprises. They just are. And that's okay. But if that's true, then athletes should earn money or be able to earn money, share in revenue, keep legitimate NIL deals, receive medical protection, and have reasonable mobility. That's fair. But at the same time, schools should be able to stop fake bidding wars. maintain roster stability, protect smaller sports, and operate under one national rule set. That's also fair. And the thing is, I was thinking about this a second ago. Um, there are going to be universities that want this to happen. Now they're going to be shut out because the legal challenges are going to come fast and furiously. But there are schools that need this. I have one, where am I? Right up the street from it, USF. USF needs this sort of stability. What they don't need is a coach coming in for 2 years, showing some success and running off to a Norman State University, or going out and recruiting some great talent around here so they get paid, and then the second that Alabama, Florida State, some Penn State, Texas, somebody is able to wave a bunch of money in their face, and off they go. And this happens on a continuous basis. Some of these schools are going to be like, golly, this should happen, but at the same time, they can't be seen to be supporting anything that comes off the pen of Donald Trump. Although this is something that a lot of these schools really want and they know they need to maintain their programs. Now, the truth is that this can't be solved by executive order alone. It just can't. It's going to require Congress, but only Congress can create a national framework, address antitrust issues, preempt conflicting state laws, and establish a long-term rules. Everything else is temporary. All right, let me land this plane. Let me leave you with this. This is an executive order, not a final answer. But it is something important. It's a signal that even at the highest levels, people are starting to recognize the system is out of control. And if we don't fix it, we don't just lose tradition. We don't just lose our rivalries, but we lose the entire structure of college sports. Because what replaces it is not something better. It's something colder, something more transactional, something more corporate, and a whole lot less connected to the schools that we care about. So the question isn't, is this order perfect? It's not. The question is, are we finally ready to admit that there's a problem? And if the problem is serious enough to actually try to fix it. Because if we are, this is the moment right here. Might be the beginning of saving college sports. This has been the Morning Report. Thank you again for coming by. Until we see you again, go out there and learn something, love somebody, and for goodness sakes, y'all take care of yourself. We will see you when we see you. Bye-bye now.